Have you ever wondered what a child becomes when the world forgets he exists? What happens to a heart so small when the only thing it learns is fear? Before anyone in the neighborhood ever knew his name, a moment was about to unfold inside an old abandoned house. A moment so fragile and so powerful that it would change everything, but not yet. Not before the darkness showed what it had done to him. The old wooden house had been forgotten long before little Cairo entered the world. Yet now, it was the only place he had left, the last shadow that still carried the faint scent of the life he once knew. Whenever the wind pushed against the weak walls, the structure groaned in pain. Dust drifted through cracked windows, and empty tin cans rolled across the crooked floorboards. Right there, in the middle of that cold silence, a tiny boy slept curled on the wooden planks. Barefoot. Exhausted. Wrapped in the same oversized gray shirt and rough shorts he had worn for what felt like ages. His small chest rose in shallow breaths, his thin arm wrapped tightly around a dented can, as if letting it go meant losing one more piece of the world he could not keep. Cairo never truly slept. Even though he was barely 3 years old, he rested like someone whose childhood had already been stolen. Every creak froze his body. Every cry of a bird made him twitch. Every gust of wind made him cling to whatever object was closest to him, usually a can or a splinter of wood. He had not always been alone. He had not always been this frightened. But the night everything fell apart left marks so deep that even his tiny body remembered what his voice could no longer say. It began with rain. Hard rain, hitting the roof like thrown stones. He remembered his mother calling him softly, her voice trembling but still trying to smile. He saw his father dragging boxes toward the door while smoke crept along the kitchen floor. At first the fire was quiet, a thin orange glow licking the wall. Then it grew, hungry and fast. Cairo did not understand. He stood frozen, clutching his favorite metal spoon. His mother's hands were hot when she grabbed him, her eyes wide with fear and love. "Stay close to me," she whispered. Then the roof groaned. A beam snapped. Flames exploded upward. His mother did not think, she acted. She pushed Cairo through the back door with so much strength that he rolled into the mud outside. He reached for her. She never came. His father tried. He tried desperately. But the ceiling collapsed with a roar that shook the world. Cairo remembered the scream. Then the sudden silence. Then the bitter taste of rain mixed with ash. And everything was gone. He wandered until dawn, tiny feet dragging through mud, until he reached the abandoned house next door. The one his parents had always warned him to avoid. Now it was the only place left that did not disappear. Days passed. Maybe weeks. Maybe months. Cairo stopped understanding time. He cried until he could not breathe, then stopped crying altogether. He survived on scraps. He stopped speaking. Every attempt at sound felt like a rope tightening around his throat. And every morning he waited. For footsteps he knew. For arms that would never return. For a voice that would never call his name again. But the only footsteps he ever heard were the rats inside the walls. Until the day everything began to change for him. Nora rushed toward the cracked window, her heart slamming against her ribs as she tried to understand what her daughter had seen. Inside that dim, dusty room, a small shape lay curled on the wooden floor. Not an animal. A child. A child who had been living in silence, alone, and unseen. "Oh God," Nora whispered. "Malik, call someone. There's a child in there." Before Malik could even reach for his phone, Nora pushed the old door open. Dust filled the air, the smell of abandonment thick enough to sting her eyes. She stepped inside slowly, carefully. And then she saw him clearly. A tiny boy. Fragile. Lost. Curled on the boards as if the floor were the only bed he had ever known. "Sweetheart," she breathed. "Sweetheart, can you hear me?" The moment the floor creaked beneath Malik's foot in the doorway, the little boy jolted awake. His dark eyes flew open, wide with terror. He scrambled backward, hitting the wall with a painful thud. The tin can in his hand slipped away and rolled across the floor with a sharp metallic clank. His breathing turned wild, fast, desperate. His small hands lifted defensively as if preparing for a blow he had learned to expect. Nora dropped to her knees, lowering herself to his level. "No, no, baby. You are safe. We are not here to hurt you." But Cairo did not believe her. His tiny body trembled convulsively, his breath coming in broken whimpers. Alani stepped closer, holding a small piece of bread in both hands. "Mom, let me try," she whispered. Nora hesitated, then nodded. Alani knelt a little distance away, keeping her voice soft. "Hi. Are you hungry? You can have this. It is okay. It is for you." Cairo stared at the bread. His stomach growled so loudly it echoed through the room. Yet he did not move toward her. Instead, he crawled to his dented can first, clutching it to his chest before inching forward like a frightened animal expecting a trap. His tiny hand hovered over the bread, shaking. Then, suddenly, he snatched it and pressed it tightly against his shirt, protecting it from anyone who might take it away. He did not eat it at once. He smelled it first. Examined it. Then took a tiny bite, never taking his eyes off the strangers in front of him. Nora placed her hand gently on the floor, not touching him, simply offering closeness. "You are safe now," she whispered. He stared at her hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, he placed his own little palm on the floor near hers. Not touching, but close. Close enough to say he wanted help, but did not know how to ask for it. Before we continue, if you have not done it yet, subscribe to our channel for more stories that will move your heart. Trust us, you do not want to miss what comes next. And now, let us go on. Outside, the wind rattled the broken window, but inside the room something fragile had begun to change. For the first time in far too long, Cairo reached toward the world instead of shrinking from it. And the world, this time, reached back with kindness. "Mom," Alani whispered softly. "Can he come home with us for a little while? He looks so cold." Malik rubbed the back of his neck, torn between instinct and responsibility. "We need to call the authorities," he murmured. "He cannot stay here like this." Nora nodded, though her eyes never left the fragile boy in front of her. "We will do things properly," she agreed gently. "But first, we help him warm up." They did not try to lift him. They did not force him to follow them. Cairo was not ready for that. Instead, they stepped outside with him, staying near the doorway of the abandoned house. They kept a respectful distance, giving him room to breathe air that did not smell like fear or ashes. Cairo sat with his back pressed against the wall, clutching his dented can like it held the last piece of his world. He watched them with wide, cautious eyes, waiting for the moment they would become loud, or angry, or dangerous. But they never did. Alani spoke to him gently, telling him her name, pointing to their new home as if she were offering him a tiny piece of safety. Malik set a warm blanket on the ground close to him, not touching him, not pushing it toward him. Nora placed more food nearby and let him decide when to reach for it. Slowly, unbelievably slowly, his shaking shoulders loosened. By the time the sun turned orange in the sky, Cairo finally stood. His legs wobbled beneath him. His bare feet were dusty. But he stood. And then, as if gathering every ounce of courage left inside his tiny body, he reached forward and tugged the edge of Alani's sleeve. Just a tiny pull. A question without words. "Do you want to come with us?" Alani asked quietly. Cairo did not speak. But he did not let go of her sleeve either. Nora brought her hand to her chest, overwhelmed. Malik exhaled slowly and nodded. "All right. We will take him with us." They walked carefully, step after step. Cairo stayed close to Alani, gripping her sleeve with one hand and holding his kin with the other, the only bridge between his old world and this new, unknown one. When they reached the doorway of the new house, warm golden light spilled onto the porch. Cairo hesitated, squinting. He had never stood in a doorway like this. A doorway that meant comfort instead of danger. But he felt the warmth almost instantly. He stepped inside. It was like entering another universe, one where the air smelled clean, where voices were soft, where the walls did not echo with loss. Nora crouched and spoke to him gently. "You are safe here, sweetheart. We will help you, one step at a time." And they kept their promise from the very first minute. They began by bathing him carefully, letting him touch the warm water with his fingers first. When he did not pull away, Nora washed the dirt from his tiny arms, whispering to him that he was safe, that nothing would hurt him. They wrapped him in a soft towel, one that smelled like lavender instead of dust. They handed him warm soup, which he sipped in small, shaky mouthfuls. When he coughed, Nora rubbed his back with slow circles. When he dropped his spoon, Malik picked it up without a single sign of frustration. For the first time in his short life, nobody rushed him. Nobody shouted. Nobody tugged at him. Nobody left him behind. That night, Nora set up a small bed on the floor next to Alani's. "You can sleep here tonight," she whispered gently. "Just for tonight, until we figure everything out." Cairo stared at the bed for a long time. Then he looked at Nora. Then at Alani. She gave him a soft smile, showing him everything was all right, showing him he did not have to be afraid. Slowly, as if the mattress might disappear if he moved too quickly, Cairo crawled onto the bed. He placed his dented tin can beside the pillow, resting his past right next to this strange new beginning. Alani whispered, "Good night, little one." Cairo blinked heavily. His small fingers inched toward her hand. He touched it lightly, just a tiny tap, but it was enough to carry every fear and every hope he could not say out loud. Nora covered her mouth and looked away, tears filling her eyes. Malik turned off the hallway light and left the door open, just enough to keep the room warm with a soft glow. Minutes later, Cairo's breathing deepened. His tiny body relaxed into the mattress. For the first time since the fire that stole everything from him, he slept not in fear, not on cold wooden boards, not curled in terror, but in a home. A real home. As he slept, Alani whispered to her mother, "We are going to keep him safe, right?" Nora brushed her daughter's hair gently. "Yes, baby. From now on, he will never be alone again." Beneath soft lights, wrapped in warmth instead of grief, the little boy slept like a child for the first time in far too long. And this time, he did not wake to silence, or to fear, or to hunger. He woke to love. If this story touched your heart, do not let it end here. Tap like to show your support for this child's new beginning. Leave a comment to share what moved you most. And make sure to subscribe. More emotional, life-changing stories are coming, and you will not want to miss the next one. If this story moved you, let it continue beyond this moment. Press like to show your support for the little boy's new beginning. Share your thoughts in the comments, tell us what touched you the most, and do not forget to subscribe. More emotional, life-changing stories are on their way, and you will not want to miss the next one.